Hello there, part 33. A little bit of post-com this time first, though, for about 6 or so minutes, and then we'll jump right back into live-com. I just wanted to show off a few things before we got started in regards to all the things that we saw last time that I didn't show off last time. First off, you'll notice I'm fighting Artorias again, although a little bit differently this time, using fast roll. I demonstrated last time, since I was mainly just wanting to talk, I just used the, a great shield for the majority of the fight. But you notice that he's kind of wandering around. That's because I'm using the Slumbering Dragon Crest Ring to mask all my sounds. I just wanted to show off that he is kind of quote-unquote blind, which some people were mentioning. There's actually quite a lot of little hidden mechanisms in the Artorias fight that are obviously meant to try to ensure that everyone can play their own way. He isn't quite blind, exactly. He does have some very crappy detection range, though, which is pretty suitable for him. He's not completely blind, it seems. Although it would make sense that he would be... his vision would be restricted, or whatever you want to say, by the abyss. So you can fight him that way if you so choose. Let's see. I wanted to point out that the goo that Artorias is slinging out is actually coming from one of his arms. Some people were wondering how exactly can he sling his arm around, and they were pointing that out as well. I just wanted to point that out. Yeah, he doesn't even use it during this footage, unfortunately. I was trying to get him to use it, but he just didn't feel like doing it today. Guess he has already spent himself using that particular arm about 3 or so times today. I'm making a masturbation joke. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Alright. But anyways, yeah, whenever he slings his little arm out, it's actually... It seems to be the blood that he's slinging out from his own arm. Pretty interesting. What are the other things I wanted to point out here? You can break him out of this, which I did know, of course. But last time I did say something like, you'll only get in one hit or so. But I was referring to it being safe. Like, you can only get in one hit if you're not attempting to actively break his poise and get him out of that state. Otherwise, yeah, you can only get in one hit before you can safely roll out and avoid that thing entirely. If you're using a slower weapon... the way you flipped out of that. If you're using a slower weapon, for example, and you're not certain exactly how much poise damage it's doing, whether or not it's going to break him out of it, then yeah, just get in that one hit and leave, or just leave him alone like I was doing. But, as you can see, like, you can run up. I just barely catch him on the tail end of this. Like, I was a few frames away from taking a hit myself. So that's the reason why usually... You know, if you're too far away, if you're using a slower weapon, then you may not want to attempt to do that. But in my case, since I was using a faster one with fairly substantial amount of damage, then it works out just fine. Okay, a few other things to show off here. First, I thought maybe I should actually unequip my weapon before attempting this time. But let's take a brief look at Kieran, her full set. We could actually do this now that we have our sets of armor for this part. But we'll do it this way anyways. But she is very pretty, isn't she? I really like the look of her mask, at least. Everything kind of down south here, it's kind of boring. But she's got that motto face going on. Looks nice, doesn't she? I think one person said that maybe the reason why she has arches on her heels is maybe because she is a rider. And, you know, riders would have that if they were, you know, riding. But there's no horses in this universe as far as we can tell, so, There's your little curly-Q horns. I love those. Now, we're going to get a little bit of extra dialogue that we didn't get last time. And you've already seen this. So let's shut up for that.
I wish to pay proper respect with that soul. Would you be willing to part with it? Yes, of course. I must not be presumptuous. Artorias would not have approved.
Artorias would have lectured her if she was presumptuous.
What is it? Something else? Have you changed your mind?
No.
Then you have no business with me.
Well then. Let's just change that.
What is it? Have you changed?
Let's give her the soul.
Thank you. You are very kind. Please take this. I no longer need it.
So now she has no
May
weapons.
the Lord guide thee.
And now that she has no weapons, it should be safe to attack her, right?
You humans, always taking what you please. Then I shall do the same.
But apparently not. Even though she gives you her weapons and says, I no longer need these, guess what? She's got more weapons. You filthy, filthy liar, Kieran. What a rascal. She's always up to no good. What a kidder. Alright, but we're going to see a little bit of things, a few things in regards to her fighting. But you can tell exactly how she's trying to use her weapons. She leads in with the gold tracer and then follows up with the silver tracer. You saw her throw something there in a second. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But yeah, you can see the way that she fights. It's meant to be this flourishing, dancing motion, which is not really working out too well for her. Like, I'm just face-fucking her right now.
How? You humans, my dear.
They didn't show it in subtitles, but she does say, my dear Artorias, in that very last part. So, we picked up her armor from that. That's the only way that you can get that, unfortunately.
You.
We're going to run through this one more time, except this time we are going to allow her to kill us. I do appreciate the fact that she says that Artorias would not have approved for her presumption.
Then I shall do
It does hint at more of a relationship than what you would normally expect. Does seem to almost be I don't know if it's a lover relationship, it could be sort of a sisterly relationship, but it's obviously a very close one. Whatever exactly the relationship was, we don't know. But here she throws this again, and these are Lord's talismans. And it's important to note that she throws Lord's talismans because guess what? That means that the church exists right now, and All-Father Lloyd exists in this time frame.
such conceit.
How did you imagine the Lord's Blade would not reach you? Alright, Livecom. Hello everyone, and welcome to Post 33 proper, I suppose. Just got through doing my little post-com bit there. As you can see, we're going to be playing through the majority of this area as sort of Artorias. I thought that would be fitting. The idea that after beating him, you go back, you get his armor, and you dress up and pretend to be him for the sake of history preserving itself, or some nonsense like that. But first off, let's go over here and let's grab a bit of dialogue with Marvelous Chester, if we can actually get it. Just to make sure that we cleared everything out. And by the way, you will notice that I'm using the Great Shield of Artorias, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, but it seemed fitting. I've already gone ahead and loaded in all the gear that you would get from the Soul of Sif and the Soul of Artorias, even though I have not technically beaten Sif just yet. But for the sake of explaining everything in one go, we're going to handle it this way.
Oh, for Juniper's sake, put some spring into your step.
Who the hell is Juniper? I don't know.
Did you really slay Knight Artorias? I'd heard the Abyss found him first, but even still, that's absolutely treacherous. Yes, magnificently so.
So you can tell as far as his character, which is no surprise, he's a little bit villainous himself.
Believe it or not, Oolacile has brought the Abyss upon itself, fooled by that toothy serpent. They upturned the grave of primeval man and incited his ornery wrath. What could they have been thinking? But to you and I, it's all ancient history. You have to ask yourself, does it really matter?
That's kind of a big amount of information, but he does give his information as far as they were the people of Oolacile were fooled by that toothy serpent, which obviously is either referring to Frampt or Kath. Now, it seems like it was intended that most people would not have known about Kath in the first place. That most people would just know about Frampt. Because actually getting hold of Kath and getting hold of that whole thing is actually fairly difficult if you think about it. Like, it's just well known now, but imagine if there was no internet and so on. It probably would be fairly difficult for you to figure that out on your own. So, it's supposed to be, I guess, misleading for you to wonder what exactly he's talking about, because is Frampt actually fooling us? But for those of us in the know, I guess it's more clear-cut what exactly happened. But it's assumed that Kath visited the people here for his own motivations, which I guess we may talk about later. and fool them into upturning the grave of primeval man. Whatever exactly that entails. But it does seem to mean that at some point in history, someone died, which we're going to assume is the furtive pygmy, just for the sake of consistency. And he was buried here. Like after he had gone through fucking lots of zombies and having lots of weird zombie hollow babies and spreading his soul to all sorts of nice little primeval humans who in turn, I guess, inbred with each other or fuck their own corpses, their own zombies, to make more humans. I don't know, that's just kind of a weird thing. But after all that, they buried him here, and the Oolacilians, for some reason, listened to Kath, and for some reason, again, Kath insisted, you know what you should do? You should upturn the grave of primeval man and do stuff to him. What exactly it is, we don't know. But that seemed to piss him off. It seemed to piss him off even though he was dead, which is quite impressive. Which is quite impressive indeed. And as he said, to them it's all ancient history. So whether or not he's telling you this because it's something that he learned after he went back in time, or whether or not it's something that we in theory both knew already, that it's well known, it seems to be that it's something he learned recently, because it doesn't seem like the whole toothy serpent thing would be something that would be very well known, either in our time period or in his, wherever exactly he's from. Whether or not he's from ours or he's a little bit in the future is not quite clear, although from his garb it seems to be that he's further in the future, I suppose. But that's that.
I've little to talk about, really.
Unlike me.
Oh, you know me. What do I know?
He didn't even say, haha. It's more like, blah, blah. Little talk about really what is, you know. Alright, so that's all out of him for the time being.
So long.
Wonder if he gives us anything new if we just speak to him again.
Oh, for Juniper's sake, put some spring into your step.
The Juniper thing, I don't know. I'll have to look that up later. It's probably just another one of those old folksy things that I don't know anything about, since Juniper is not referred to anywhere else in the entire game. So we're just going to assume that for the time being. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to have to do is to go through a list of all the various item descriptions of all the things that I've been plucking up and down. Ugh, Lordy mercy. A far cry from the... I've actually been doing some Dark Souls streams lately on Twitch. I took control of our internet, and I gave ourselves a business package, so now I'm able to stream a little bit. So if you want to actually interact with me live, I suppose that'd be the thing to do, to go to Twitch and follow me there, or follow me on Twitter, and, you know, it'd be easier then to pick up on what exactly the wherewithal... I'm trying to think of a fancy old-fashioned term, but the shit that I'm doing... There we go, that's a modern age way of putting it. That the shit that I do, you'll be able to follow the shit that I do. Or you can follow me in Picado and just hang out and watch Voyager there and be miserable as well. Lots of things that you shouldn't want to do, but people do anyways. Magnificent. Alright. Great Shield of Artorias. This is one of the things that you actually get from Sif, which we have not handled yet. The Solo Sif actually creates 3 different items, I think. So if you want all of them, guess what? Yeah, you're gonna have to beat that 3 times. New Game Plus, plus 2 at least. Alright, but shield born from the soul of the great Grey Wolf Sif, guardian of the grave of the Abysswalker Knight Artorias. Not really spoilers in this case, we know all this. Boasts consistent defense and divine protection against various status effects. Nothing much to say about here other than his divine protection, so it's something that was made by the gods, which should be fairly self-evident. Let's see. We have the weapons to look at here. You'll notice that I'm using the Black Knight sword, which I'll be showing off this in a bit, but let's look at the descriptions first. First, the Abyss Greatsword. This is what you get whenever you actually... I think I may have misspoken in regards to this last part. I may have... Of course, I ramble. You know, you guys know how I am. And I said that his soul creates his sword, which is not the case. Actually, Sif's soul is what creates the 2 Great Sword of Artorias that you can get. His soul actually does create his sword, but it's the one that's been tainted by the dark. Swallowed by the dark with its master, this sword is tainted by the abyss, and now its strength reflects the wielder's humanity. So these are all basically the same exact thing, except they have slightly different stats. This one, I believe, scales with your humanity, as opposed to scaling with your stats or something like that. I can't remember. Again, the point of this LP is not really to discuss scaling and, you know, stupid bullshit like that. It's lore focused. So it works in a different way. That's all I really care to say about in regards to that. Now this one, sword born from the soul of the great grey wolf Sif, guardian of the grave of the Abyss Walker Knight Artorias. It is interesting that it is actually born from the, like, Sif's soul. Which I guess there's really not much of an explanation to it. But maybe that the soul became so well known in regards to the use of the sword that now it is linked to him or something. How exactly this functions, I don't know. Are you telling the guy that, like, if you go to the giant blacksmith or something, and you say, I want this weapon, does he go, oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about? Or does he say, I don't know, or can he not make that specific weapon using that specific soul because it doesn't resemble it or something? Just one of those things, don't question it. Just don't question it. So Artorias hunted the dark race, and his sword strikes harder against dark servants. So we've talked about this before in the prior part because I had to discuss it then. But yeah, he hunted the dark race, so this is where we get the information about him having visited New Londo before. Because the only place that you'll find dark race is New Londo. Or maybe in ancient times, maybe they wandered around and whatnot. It's not really clear exactly how that all works. But as far as the canon of this game goes, unless you just want to ignore this and say that doesn't count because the DLC retcons it or something, which you think that if they did, then they would have rewritten this in the first place. But that's where we get the information that he went to New Londo before he came here. This one, however, let's see, which one is which? I think this is the one that's actually cursed, and this is the one... No, this is the one that's cursed, and this is the normal one. Same exact description, except this one says, the sword can damage ghosts, as it was cursed when Artorias joined a covenant with the creatures of the Abyss. This gets complicated. It says that Manus is the source of the Abyss, right? We covered this before. But this also seems to imply that the toothy serpents are actually creatures of the Abyss. So, were they spawned from Manus? Like, but that doesn't make any sense, because the toothy serpent is what caused Manus to be awoken in the first place, so they had to have come before then. But it does say that, you know, Manus is the source of all the Abyss. He's the father of the Abyss. He created it. So maybe there was just a little bit of Abyss. Maybe there was just a little bit of Abyss before all this got started, and he just made more of it. Or maybe it's just something that they didn't really think about, and we won't worry too much about it. Now, you notice in my little cosplay thing that we're going to be doing today, I'm using the Black Knight sword. Let's show off its moveset real fast just to establish this. This is his R1 pattern, and here's its R2. You've seen this before. Two-handed. Into an R2. Okay, just kind of memorize that for a second, and then we'll go ahead and use one of these. And you'll notice it is exactly the same. If there is a distinction between the animations, it is very, very slight. So that's the reason I'm going to be using it, because I do not meet the stat requirements for all these. You'll notice that they require 18 int and 18 faith. This one requires 20, and this one requires 18 as well. I don't meet any of those, and I don't plan on ruining my build any further, which I had to go up to 10 int and faith to be able to buy everything in the first place. That's ruined. But yeah, these swords are kind of infamous for... You have to design a build completely around them. Like, they don't do split damage. This is one of the weird things about them. They only do physical damage in the first place. So, except aside from this one, the one that's not cursed specifically, it does some magic damage. But they do technically do the highest amount of damage in the game, as long as you have something crazy like... If you're at, like, SL 200 or something insane. Like, once you get to that, then it becomes one of the best things that you can use. But before then, it's pretty much worthless to you. So, it's just one of those things where you can make a build completely around it if you want to, and maybe you can get to 125, SL 125, but even then, you're probably going to be doing more damage with other weapons, so it's really just not worth it. So, for the time being, we'll just be using the Black Knight sword. As far as the lore goes, it should be obvious what the implications are. that the Black Knights, of course, related to the Silver Knights, and of course, judging from the armor of Artorias in the first place, like I'm wearing 2 pieces of Silver Knight set here because I didn't want the thin, gangly legs and the shitty-looking gauntlets. If I had a more modern variation to use with his chest piece and helm, I would be using it. But it's obvious that he is very, very closely related to the Silver Knights. Whether or not he trained them, whether or not they served under him, it's not exactly clear. Or maybe he just used to be one of the Silver Knights, and he was so good at his job that Gwen Hen chose him and plucked him out and gave him the job that he has today. Alright, now, I went ahead and got all the stuff. I had to roll back my save to be able to show off all the things that I showed off today. I went back and picked up all the things that we've already picked up. I am human, so we're probably going to get invaded the moment that we come through this thing. Let's see if the fog... No, the fog didn't immediately erupt. That is fairly irritating. But that's one of the things we'll have to be dealing with today. Now I'm going to try to get down here to Marvelous... excuse me, no spoilers. To the thing that we're going to see in a second. Ooh, mysterious. I've been doing a lot of streaming lately. So it feels a little bit unusual doing it this way right now. And being restricted to the build that I'm having to use here. Like, I'm using... In addition to that, I'm using Artorias' Wolf Ring for the sake of consistency. Just because I don't really run cosplay builds that much. And a lot of the times, cosplay builds are not really looked upon too kindly in, like, PvP. Because usually if you see a cosplay build... It's usually going to be a cheater anyways. Not that cosplay builds are inherently superior, but, you know, it's because they are usually inferior that they end up, cheating. And it is interesting that even though this, it used, this sorcerer here used, it wasn't Dark Bead, it was, whatever the hell it is, but the other dark skill that... Was it Dark... Is it not Dark Fog? Which one did we already pick up? I can't remember. I think we already picked up Dark Fog, it was. Because that seems like it'd be... No, it's Dark Orb. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. It used Dark Orb. They are completely physical-based attacks. But it's interesting that it dealt split damage, which is a little bit unusual. Now let's walk ourselves just a little bit down here. I'm trying not to... Yeah, there he goes. Just hurry up and get your ass up here. Let's get it over with. If I can actually use this. That move is so slow that it's almost borderline useless. Okay. But we're going to walk down here just a little bit, getting the trigger. There we go. Hello, Marvelous Chester. How are you today? Oh, apparently you're not very good. Now we'll show off a little bit of him before I brutally massacre him. But you'll notice that he is using a sniper crossbow. Now, we actually picked up a sniper crossbow in Sin's Fortress, if you remember, and he does have that little special attack where he throws out little bitty roses at you, since he is so cute. Isn't that adorable? You don't get access to these, unfortunately. But he is using a sniper crossbow, and the sniper crossbow is important to note just because it is from, it is a weapon that was manufactured and used by Kieran. So a lot of people assume that this means that Marvelous Chester here actually is someone from Kieran. And some people try to go as far as to say that he is the Earl of Kieran and so on. I think you're just trying to shove things together at that point, because there's no evidence of that whatsoever. Just because that there's a name that exists on a sheet of paper somewhere, people like to get overly enamored with trying to link everything together. Let's try not to kill him right away. Well, you notice if you get too close to him, he does have some unique attacks. That's his push, and it does clear a lot of space around him, which is fairly cheap. It'd be nice if we could do that. It would be overpowered as hell. But in addition to that, he does do a few little... Don't jump off the edge or anything. I don't want to have to do that. But he also, let's just try to just track him up here. But if you get a little bit too close to him, then he does also have the tendency of doing little jump back attacks if he'll actually do it. Come on. For God's sakes. Come on. Maybe if I swing at dead air in front of him. Guess he's just not gonna do it. Whatever. What if I can... Yeah. What if I could kick him? Okay. So that did not go too well for Marvelous Chester. And unlike a normal invasion, he does not leave behind any humanity or anything for you. It is interesting that he is actually invading you, as though he's from another world entirely, even though we just got through seeing him. But maybe that's because time is convoluted. Maybe that's why that's the case. But before we go any further, let's go all the way back and talk to him once again. Oh, jeez. Looks like we're being invaded, too. Oh, no. Never mind. Okay. So let's talk about something in the meantime. Like nothing at all. But yeah, I don't want to go too much into anything just yet. But I will say that I am doing another playthrough on Twitch right now of Dark Souls, and it is a filthy mage build, which people have been kind of poking fun at, both because it's a filthy mage build, which I never play, and because I'm not actually using any magic on it. Like, I beat Ornstein and Smog recently by using a +10 falchion, even though I had, like, 16 decks or something. So that's going well, quote-unquote well.
Oh, you. You have quite some nerve. Or are you just thick? Fine, then. What is it that you need?
So, yeah, he got through invading us, and he is all butthurt that his invasion did not go particularly well.
Well, you've quite the nerve. I've had enough of you.
So, in addition to being butthurt, he's got a lot of salt. He is very salty about us beating the shit out of him.
Well, you've quite
He
the
does not want to
nerve.
talk to us anymore.
I've had enough of you.
So our polite discussions apparently are no more.
I'll be seeing you.
But he'll be seeing us.
If you survive your travels.
He's kind of lol-trekky in some ways, isn't he?
Oh, you. You have quite
But this
some
is all
nerve.
he says for the
Are
rest
you
of
just
eternity.
thick?
I guess he's almost
Fine,
picking a
then.
fight with us at this
What is
point.
it that you...
But he does have some vending items for us, so I guess there's a reason to preserve him for a bit. But he doesn't really sell anything particularly useful.
I'll be seeing you if you survive your travels.
So I'm considering brutally murdering him right now. But I'll keep him alive for the time being, just because there might be some additional dialogue that I'm not aware of just yet. Which wouldn't be surprising at all. But all the same, let's continue on and venture further on into Oolacile proper. But for a moment, let me tab out for a moment. I needed to pull up my notes. Audacity was sitting in front of them. Okay, but there are a few things that people were saying in regards to the prior part. Most of it was just people challenging me and trying to provoke me even further with more, whatever you want to call it, pedantic commentary. But that's okay. That's okay, too. Last time, I actually considered, not even, using the part that you saw last time. I was considering re-recording it, because I didn't really like the way that it went, because I ended up just droning on and on about the same thing over and over again. And the delay after you swing this thing this one time, oh, it's so much. That's the reason why I really don't like using, great swords, like claymores, or even, especially the ultra great swords. Ultra great swords, especially, I'm not overly fond of. Oh, looks like we have a visitor. I'm sure this will go well for me. Well, all the same, I guess he'll have to come find me. Since my internet connection has been a little bit better as of late, I don't know, it could go a little bit better, or it could go terribly. Who can say, really? But usually the people that are invading in Oolacile are people that are actually, like, they're actual legit PvPers. And since I'm at a kind of the PvP range, the SL range, then it's most likely that he's probably just going to kick the shit out of me. Because I am definitely not outfitted for this. Hello. There we go, that's what I wanted. I don't have waves, so we'll just use prayer. Hello. Are you actually wanting to fight me, or are you just... Oh, I guess he does. Hello. Do you want me to go up here? Is that what we're doing? Do you want to backstab me? Because having only physical attacks probably is not going to work out for you very well. Yeah, that's exactly what he wanted. He's just backstab fishing. What a rascal. For some reason, my frame rate dropped tremendously for a moment. Green blossom, gotta have green blossoms. I don't really do much PvPing for obvious reasons. Yeah, he's really aching for those backstab fishes. Love hearing those screams in the background. Yeah, and this guy is not really fooling around. He actually, like, he really, really wants a successful invasion. And usually, yeah, he's one of these people. He's probably wearing a hornet ring. He's one of these people. Unfortunately, my backstab fishing is not really working out the way that I planned. Not sure what exactly he's up to. But I can't really have him wasting too much time. But I don't do much PvPing for obvious reasons. Not really practiced at it in the first place. He actually dodged through it. Why don't you go ahead and use another humanity friend? Maybe I'll just cut all this. He's just wasting too much time. And he's just going to... Yeah, there he goes. Well, I'm not going human again for obvious reasons. Because all people are going to do is just, No, we're not going to indict him. All people are going to do is just, invade and then try to exploit the humongous, hitbox ranges in Dark Souls 1, which hopefully they'll fix in Dark Souls 3. And then, just rely on that and Hornet Backstab nonsense. That's another reason why I really don't let PvP in this game, because it kind of just devolves into the same thing. It's just a lot of parry fishing, especially in Dark Souls 2 anyways. And, Hornet Ring backstabs, if people are actually try-harding through it. Usually it's the people that are kind of just dicking off that are more fun. But whenever they just start spamming humanities or divine blessings or something, then it just becomes a waste of time. Like, it's not very fun at all. But you get the rough idea what PvP is like in this game. Okay, but yeah, I'm not going to be going human again anytime soon in this area. There's really no reason for it. Especially in Oolacile, which is a invasion hotspot. I was hoping I'd get some bloathead drops from these guys, but I don't think I'm going to. Okay. You notice from the actions of these guys that they are not hollow, as I said before. They are just batshit insane. And yes, I know about this up here, of course. Let's take a good look. So yeah, we have the return of the Mimic. It's been a very long time since we've seen one. But you remember all the speculation about mimics and what exactly they are and so forth and so on. But they used to be some sort of clan of greedy people. And they are now cursed with the head of something that apparently resembles an ancient god. Which doesn't make any sense. But it nets us the very good carving. Which, it's unusual that whenever you pick, like, it automatically adds these. It automatically adds things that you pick up. Except for things like this, which is kind of unusual. Oh, I've missed that. I've really missed that. Okay, I guess I could actually... Nah, fuck that crystal lizard. I'm not even going to bother. We've already seen most of this. Here's one of the monster closets that Miyazaki is so fond of. He loves doing that trick. He fucking loves it. Putting something, like, in a little corner where you can't see it, and then putting something right in front of you so that you try to run up and attack it or grab a hold of it or whatnot. He loves that. He has a raging boner for it. This sorcerer... Oh, you little fuckwad! I can backstab fish, too. But these things are really fucking annoying. I hate those fucking sorcerers. Because they deal a shit ton of damage and they spam that shit all the time. But anyways, as I was trying to say before we got invaded, there's a few things that people were talking about. Guiltia says, I'm one of those Artorias is the best boss in the series, guys. I get what you're saying about him doing all the animu, weeby bullshit, flip back nonsense, but that's why he's awesome. He's he's lively, animated. It feels like a real fight instead of just, this is my attack, please wait for an opening. It feels more like a real fight, whereas where most other enemies in the game take a couple of seconds in between attacks to catch the breath and your sword. I actually agree with you. I don't agree about it, well, I'll say it this way. Every fight in the game has its own sort of problems, right? Like, none of it's going to be absolutely perfect in every way. But, I do agree about it being engaging. Like, I even said that most people say that it feels like the best fight in the entire series because of that. But this is sort of the subject of engagement that I wanted to talk about. Whenever you're making a combat system, one of the primary things that you need to worry about is engagement. Like, one of the reasons why I complained about Dark Souls 2 and its whole, oh, you die so many times nonsense, is that that's not the same thing as, you know, rewarding difficulty. And some people have a big hard-on for difficulty because, you know, difficulty is fun, right? No. I mean, the reason why the whole idea of difficulty is, you know, the reason why difficulty is good is because it creates engagement in your gameplay. And you may wonder, what the hell's engagement supposed to be? Engagement is basically just, and I'm not using like a technical term, I'm just using my own term here. But engagement is, as far as I'm concerned, just your engagement to whatever it is that you are experiencing. Like, these guys right here are not immensely engaging because I know that they're just going to do like a couple things. He's going to run at me, he's going to do this underhand into overhand attack, he might, you know, backstep or something. That's pretty much it. It's not very engaging. Like, you're really not having much of an interaction with these guys. Which sort of goes in hand with my complaints about the parry system, things like that. It's the idea of how much are you actually interacting with the enemies. And a lot of the times you aren't really doing much of any interacting at all. You're just, you know, you raise your shield, they come hit your shield, and then you counterattack. And that's as far as it ever goes. You really don't feel like you're attacking them, like there's no engagement there. Whereas with the Artorias fight, even though it's kind of the same thing, like he's just flipping around and you are at least engaged with him, like you have to do something. Except for whenever you use a great shield, in which case I guess you don't have to do much of anything, do you? Like I was doing. But it does create that sensation. That's the reason why a lot of people obsess over the game being fast. Like, they're not... It being fast is not what they're actually after. It's just what they assume creates engagement. Like, you can have slower gameplay that also has the same kind of engagement. I mean, let's look at something like a turn-based game or something like that. I mean, obviously, a turn-based game is very slow because that's what a turn-based game is. But, it's very engaging because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of information being thrown at you. And the more information that a player actually has to deal with as he is playing creates an engagement. And naturally, a very fast game is going to have a lot of engagement because a lot of things are happening at the same time. And by the way, that's where we came from. There's sort of... This is the basin that we are sort of in the first place. There's the rest of Oolacile. Really not, we won't be able to go into that area, unfortunately. Would have been interesting. It's one of those things people always... If people see something, they want to be able to access it. But we're only going to be able to go down there, unfortunately. And of course, we're going to get in here. This is your hint that there's something over here. A lot of people pass by this and don't even realize that it's there. But yeah, that's the nature of engagement in these games. And let me, before I go on any further, this is another one of these light walls. By the way, you don't have to necessarily use the Sunlit Maggot. You can also use the skull lanterns that we picked up earlier on in the game. Unless you raise it directly into the wall, in which case it doesn't seem to actually detect it. Another way of getting over here is actually... It seems like you can... If you have like a light burden, you can jump across to that beam over there, and you can walk your way over here that way, which I've actually done in the past. Although it's not particularly easy. That is a single red Titanite chunk. Is there anything over here we can clip in the wall? Nah, nothing over there. But that's it for that. So we won't have to come back for this. I just want to make sure that that was cleared out. I don't remember this guy being here, though. Where did he come from? Huh. Maybe he was there and I just completely missed him and he completely missed me. I don't know. I don't remember him being there. Oh well. But anyways, as far as engagement goes, yeah, that's I agree with you about the Artorias fight being that way. Just by its very nature, oh, he came from here. How the hell did he get over there? This is the guy that was right there, who's usually looking over from this table screaming, pointing and laughing at nothing. How did he get up there? Huh. I'll have to come back some other time and see how exactly he did that. Maybe he can actually climb up things. Maybe he was able to jump up to this somehow. That's really interesting. We'll come back for that chest in a second. Let's just get rid of this guy. But naturally, that's the reason why people want games to be fast, because they're looking for that engagement that the game is naturally lacking if the only thing that you do is walk around with a shield and raising it up and blocking attacks and counterattacking. Because this is a problem, as I've said before. Just raising your shield, letting something attack you, and it does 0 damage, you lose a little bit of stamina. I mean, some enemies will completely demolish your stamina, so there is that problem. But most of the time, especially with basic enemies, non-boss enemies, I mean, this is nothing. Like, this is just... It becomes a matter of just... Do you have enough Estus Flask charges to last the entire way through as you learn enemy movesets? And that becomes what the game is about, which is kind of boring. So whenever people get excited about Dark Souls or whatever game becoming faster, it's not that it's how fast the game is that's making it better, or it's how fast the game is that's actually making it more compelling or better, you know, anyway. It's just that it's making the game more engaging, and that's what you want. You want there to be, like, if you make the game too slow, Lords of the Fallen had this problem. Lords of the Fallen was trying to do the same exact thing. Namco Bandai was trying to publish another Souls-type game to make more money, because they knew it was becoming popular, so they kind of shat that one out. But they slowed the game down even more, which I kind of liked, but they didn't add any systems to keep the game engaging in the process, which was bad. Like, you can make the game slow, but you need to have enough systems in place that it actually is engaging. That's the reason why I wanted the basic block here to be changed to sort of a more reliable parry. That way it's actually more timed. That you actually did have to sort of time it along with the enemy attacks, but it wasn't so restricted that it was impossible that you would actually be able to land those quote-unquote parries. But you get the idea. Alright. But yeah, this is another Mimic. And I think that's it for Mimics in the entire game. That was the very last one, I believe. But I guess it's the Crest Key. Let's take a look at that. This is the Bent Crest Key. The grooves of the crest are enchanted, the door sealed with a powerful spell. It's kind of a weird way. It seems like it wasn't translated very well. The grooves of the crest are enchanted, the door sealed, even though we're not looking at a door, but whatever. I guess it's more like the grooves of the crest are enchanted to interact with a door that has been sealed with a powerful spell. But this is, I believe... it's been a while, but I believe this is the key that enables you to unlock the door to Hawkeye Go, which we won't be doing just yet, I guess. But it does indicate that his door was locked up by a powerful spell. And you might be wondering where this goes. This just leads right back out to the place that we came from before. A lot of invaders will use this to ambush one another. To ambush you. As they try to backstab fish you. I'm going to bitch about that till the day I die. But that's the reason why I really don't like PvP in Dark Souls 1. It's just backstab fishing and nothing else. But you can come down here to this ladder, cut down this rope, and that will net us our very last spell in the game. Well, not very last spell in the game, but our very last spell in this immediate area, Dark Fog. Dark Fog. Dark Fog, Dark Fog, Dark Fog. And this is going to be kind of the tipping point of what I really wanted to talk about today, I think. It seems like... No, it'll be the next one in the area. Damn it. Abyss sorcery discovered by an Oolacile sorcerer on the brink of Manus. So the way that any sort of spell or anything seems to work, like any sort of miracle or spell or maybe even the pyromancy, I guess. Which these don't seem to be... I guess they are sort of scrolls. You can't really see the lettering on it, but they do seem to be scrolls, is the idea that how this works is that somehow whenever you pick up a sorcery off the ground, you're not picking up like knowledge. You're picking up some sort of parchment that has scrawlings on it. And in this case, the scrawlings were created by a sorcerer that was on the brink of madness. But that doesn't seem to be all of it. Like, it's not just words that you read and then you understand it. It's not something you learn, but it's something that you actually have to physically equip. So it does seem to be that sorceries or miracles and so on are actually created by somehow projecting elements of your own soul onto that sheet of paper that you have written, that you have transcribed your crazy writings onto. And that in turn is what actually becomes the sorcery that you are using. So I guess by sort of attuning the miracles or the sorceries, you're actually carrying them around on your person, but you are tuning them to the same whatever, wavelength or whatever, that the sorcery, the miracle, happens to be using. Although dark fog is in theory relatively close to humanity, it also happens to be a terrible poison for humans. Perhaps it reflects man's cruelty against his own. We'll get more upfront information about this with the very last sorcery that we're going to have access to, but the general theme of these DLC spells and the dark sorceries themselves. And remember, sorceries are linked with the soul, right? And in this case, these are sorceries that have not been made by the gods, they are sorceries that have been made by human beings. Specifically, they were made by human beings, by sorcerers, that were being consumed by the abyss, that were being consumed by massive amounts of humanity, or something similar to it anyways. And as a result, they were becoming closer to that aspect of the First Flame. So the more that we learn about these spells, the more we're going to be learning about the nature of humanity and the Dark Soul itself. And in this case, it says that it's relatively close to humanity, also happens to be terrible poison for humans, perhaps reflects man's cruelty against his own. All of these reflect in some way the nature of the Dark Soul itself. Like, this is what's important about the DLC. Like, there's, a Knight Artorias, oh, he flips around, that's so cute, and, so on and so forth. But more, the thing that's important about the DLC is that it just has these sorceries, and to me, this kind of encapsulates everything that you need to know about the nature of the Dark Soul and how it is relative to everything else. Perhaps human souls, because of their humanity, produce sorceries with a more tangible presence. And notice we got this one first, and then we got this one second, and it's slowly leading up to a revelation that these sorceries, these humanity-based sorceries, that have so much physicality associated with them, are related to emotion and feeling. And more than that, they may have some sort of natural tendency to be related to tragedy in some way, which we'll talk about more in a bit. But more headless statues. We go over here. This is an elevator that leads all the way back up. I think to the Oolacile township, exactly. The one that I pointed out much earlier. Yeah, okay, it is. But now this works, we won't have to worry too much about that. Let's go ahead and send it back up. I've been trying to get into I've been trying to behave myself and actually cause these elevators to go up the way that I should be doing. Each time that I stream Dark Souls, I always inevitably misuse the New Londo elevator. Now here's more of these fucking sorcerers and more of these guys. And these sorcerers have an immensely large aggro range, yes, that's what I meant. And they fire these fucking sorceries over a very long distance. There's not really a great way of dealing with them. God damn it, don't run. Yeah, I figured that was going to happen. Just because I jumped in midair. What are those things? But you can see they do a shit ton of damage, and there's really not much you can do about it. It is interesting, like I said before, that they deal so much physical damage, but at the same time, even though it's physical damage, it counts as split damage, which is so strange. But enough of that. Full-on Republic, misspelled, Republic, I guess. And I guess full-on is one, I don't know, I'm gonna make fun of people's names. Says, as well, back in the beginning in this series, you mentioned how it kind of... God damn it. was trying to read at the same time. You mentioned how it kind of looked like people just up and left one day. The reason there are tables and such set up for a meal, well, maybe... Oh, Lord. I hate trying to read other people's sentences, because they never want to use proper grammar. Well, maybe... Okay, well, maybe that one... Well, maybe I'll just avoid... I'll try to fix this as I read it. Well, maybe one day was because... No, maybe one day because of a large conflict which also happened to help inflict some of the damage seen on the Berg. That's a fragment, I guess. I know there's really not... I know... Oh, for God's sakes. I know there's not really any information supporting this in-game or out. But it's an explanation, a poor one perhaps. But why else would there be a bunch of dudes in armor and shit walking around? I think you've already explained the former. But what I'm getting as is maybe what happened to them happened closer to the present day this game takes place in. I'll summarize that. That maybe this is supposed to be evidence that this happens closer to modern times because things were in use whenever things went bad. Oh, Lord. I said it before, but I think that the reason why that things like the dining room tables and stuff that had food still set up on them and whatnot, I think the reason why that things were set up the way that they were is because something did start to happen that sent things afoul, as far as the game is concerned. Like in the case of the Undead Berg, I think it was because... And you can pull these guys with a bow if you really feel like doing it. I think that the reason for that is because the undead curse started breaking out. Really? Fucking really? Across the fucking map. That the undead curse started breaking out and that caused everyone to sort of abandon what they were doing and start fleeing the area. Which would be important to note because it would mean that the undead curse was not that big of a problem in the first place. But at some point, after the construction of the Undead Berg and whatnot, then they would, suddenly things would have to have gone afoul. Like it was not... Right, he's gone backstep. And that is a Dark Fog, by the way, which poisons you. Which actually, it's fairly effective, I think. Like, Acid Cloud and Poison Cloud in this game are not particularly great. Like, they're next to useless. There's no real reason to use them. I really fucking hate these sorcerers. No, come on. Goddamn, this fucking cosplay shit is killing me. Just because I don't have the ability to roll out of it. And of course, using this shield isn't particularly great in the first place. Wait, hold on. I'll just demonstrate it this way. This is what the game actually wants you to do. It wants you to use the stupid silver pendant that we picked up. But it's kind of not really great. Like, see, it does deflect these things. I don't think it's going to help me there. But the problem with it is that it freezes you in place. Come on, do it again. Fine. Just get that out of your system. Come on, do something. I mean, you won't stop doing it whenever I do want you to do it. And it does last quite a bit of time. It is kind of useful to use for Manus, I guess. But generally, it's just kind of a waste of a slot, because it's just going to freeze you in place in a game that is very mobility-centric. So it's just kind of there. More headless statues, nothing much to say about this. Up there, you can see how far that we've come. That's where we encountered Artorias in the first place. But let's go in here and get this bizarre-ass fight over with. Which makes really not much of any sense at all. There's not much to say about this area, I guess. I wish there was, but there's just not. It's just an area. The only thing that I can really say that's really overly unique about it are these tiny little things sticking out of the columns that don't really seem to be about much of anything. More of this generic pattern that's all over the place that they use on textures everywhere. The Abyss is consuming this area. And I guess the implication is that Artorias came through this area, and that's what's leaving all the shit behind him. Like, you notice that he was leaving that everywhere that he was going. And whenever we fought him in the arena, you noticed it coming from the door to the place where he appeared in the first place, even though he jumped from off screen in the completely opposite direction. But don't think about that. But the implication is that Artorias did approach from this area. And I guess this is one of the things that he fought through? I don't know. But this thing's fucking weird. I forget what it's called, because it's not really that notable of an enemy, it's just really weird. Maybe it's just something that they had modeled. It doesn't really seem to have much of a, like, lore significance or anything. It's just a big, weird... It kind of almost looks like its feet are similar to the Oolacilian, you know, little sanctuary guardian things. So maybe this is something that was artificially constructed. But if you kill this thing, then ever so often it will drop a piece of chainmail gear, which is some of the gear that you can buy from the undead merchant that's in the first little area of the game. So I guess it's trying to imply that this is actually a person. But just take a look at it. It looks like it's just got a shitload of chains all around it. It's not even clear what what is this shit sticking through it? Is that like wood? It does look like wood to me, which would seem to imply that someone used some form of Oolacilian sorcery to sort of turn this guy from... I don't know, man. Like, anytime that you see wood, it's because they took some of the ancient stone that sort of the dragons were made up out of, and used whatever magic that they used to be able to turn that into wood. But this guy apparently wasn't made of stone if he drops chainmail shit, so... do I have anything else that can kind of eat through this faster? Because he has so much fucking resilience to everything. Let's try a greatsword for a bit. I'll try a hammer after this. But he has a variety of attacks, and they're all kind of annoying. Yeah, that kind of goes through him. And he can destroy these things, which causes them to drop their little wood things that they're made up out of. Come on, destroy another one, why don't you? Yep, nothing really to say about him other than he's fucking weird. And he's got a tree kind of sticking into his ass and growing out of his head. And he's made up out of chains for some reason. And he's got little spikes sticking out of him for some reason. Now he dropped something for us. I wonder what it is. Something I'm going to have to get out of my inventory. And this is random, so sometimes he doesn't even drop this. So chain armor and leather gauntlets. I've got to go find this now. Oh, thankfully it's right here. But no, nothing special. So same exact item description as the stuff that I had bought before. So yeah, it's here. Chainmail armor, a thin interlinking ring of steel, is common throughout the human world since it can be easily produced. It's not too heavy and offers good defense. Knights may favor flashy armor, but for warriors on the battlefield, anything is fine as long as it keeps them alive. Kinda strange, considering that we don't see any fighters like this in Oolacile. So who exactly this guy was in the first place, I don't know. There's no lore associated with him. I can't even really come up with much of any. Maybe there was a guy here and one of the mad Oolacilian sorcerers cursed him or something? And that made him into what he is now? I don't know, man. This shit's rough. Now, should be a friend coming for us. That's always fun. I should have kicked him. It's more fun to kick him off. And wait, how much self-humanity did I lose earlier? Not much to be concerned with. I mean, whenever, like, people that are actually PvPing will traditionally walk around with 99 self-humanity in the first place. And now that we're down here, it is not hard to get more humanity. Like, before I was, like, having to farm skeleton babies and shit like that, or farm rats, which is a nightmare, which is the reason why I really haven't been bothering with it too much. So maybe in the next episode you will see me carrying around 99 humanity, because it is now so easy to get it. But here we are in the Chasm of the Abyss. The Abyss proper. And it does seem like Artorias climbed out from this, somehow. Or maybe that this was emptying into the Abyss. It's not really clear what exactly happened. But you can see this place is dark as shit. And, actually, you'll also notice that using the Skull Lantern or using the Sunlit Maggot doesn't really seem to help much of any. It just kind of barely offers a little bit more illumination. It's because of the filter, obviously. But the Abyss is not really linked to light, exactly. Like, the Abyss is not the absence of light. It's something completely different. Which I thought was fitting. It was kind of a nice touch. It may have been an accident, I guess, is another explanation. You know, maybe it's just something they didn't intend for in the first place. But, you know, it's there. It's pretty interesting. Now, let's try to lure these guys out one at a time. Because the sorcerers are really the only problem that you really have to worry about. These guys do quite a bit of damage, especially if you're not outfitted for them. Come on. But it's mainly just whenever they start piling shit tons of these guys alongside one of these sorcerers that it becomes a major issue. And you can use these little things, which is what I'm doing. You can use these as basic defense. God damn it. Fucking sorcerer. And these guys still have not dropped any bloated heads or anything for me. I wonder what would happen if... increase the... what's my... is it 429 already? Oh, wow, really? Only 300? Well, I guess it's not too surprising. I need more humanity to be able to get all that. Actually, hold on. Since we're doing this already. Let's get rid of this while we're thinking about it. But I'll just give myself a little bit of humanity boost, and they'll get our item discovery up. For one last chance at trying to get these bloated heads. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to cheat it in or something. I can't remember if item discovery keeps going to 99, or if it caps out at 10. Yeah, I think it does cap out at 10, because the maximum amount of item discovery, for some reason, don't ask me why, is 410. 410 specifically. Is it 400? No. Is it 255? No. It's 410. And these other ones are not going to be attracted to me, I guess. So, man, the tracking on that is crazy, too. And, of course, their tracking is also nuts. No, don't start. Don't fucking start. God, I hate how aggressive these guys are. But you can see why those sorcerers are the problem. Because their tracking is nuts and they attack kind of randomly. This is kind of a nuisance. Alright. Large Top-Knot Shard. And I thought it was that thing that dropped. But I want this anyways. Dark Bead. We need to look at the item description of this. God damn it. I guess I'm just going to have to cheat it in later. Oh well. We're not going to be counting any more of those things. So I guess that's that. That is that. And we won't be doing Manus today. I'll say that for later. But we'll look at Dark Bead here in a second. Throw this guy out first. There's multiple paths that you can actually use. Like you can drop down kind of near here to some lower items. But we'll be doing that in a bit. But let's look at Dark Bead before we proceed any further, I guess. In case you can't tell, I've been kind of exhausted lately. Like, I did a stream with Nick while I was playing Dark Souls, and then yesterday I was with him on his first stream back from the hospital. And I realized very quickly that I was just completely exhausted, because I did that stream, and then I did a Picardo stream, and I streamed for like 10 or 11 hours straight, pretty much. The day before that, so I was completely exhausted. So now I'm still kind of exhausted. The last part, I was also very tired. And as I said on Twitter, I have the last Trifusion thing finally done. I'll explain this briefly. But I almost lost the Trifusion. Like, I completed it on stream, and I saved it. And the next day, the first thing I did is I opened it up and said, I'll do a little bit of alterations before I finish this up. Like, I'll do just a little bit of miniature work, you know, just fixing little details. But Paint Tool Sci decided, you know what, we can't open this canvas, which is a very, very common problem in Paint Tool Sci. Don't ever save as a .sci. Just don't do it. And that caused every other Psi file in that entire folder to also become corrupt because that's how it works. You can't open it up. It's proprietary format, so you cannot open it up in Photoshop. You can't open it up in anything else. There's no fix for it. There's some people that say you can, like, there's some very, very specific moments where you can fix it, but it's so specific that it's pretty much worthless. The general rule is that you cannot fix it. So I ended up having to experiment, and I took the file, uploaded it to, like, Google Drive, and then sent it to someone I know, and then they were able to open it. Because the file was not actually corrupt. It's one of those things. Like, Psi has no clue what it's fucking doing, because it's almost a garbage program. Like, it's almost not worth using. But it's so good at line work, that's the reason why I use it. But anyways, he was able to save it as a PSD and send it back to me, so I actually ended up recovering the file, and now I'm finally able to... I haven't done commentary on that, but that's what I'm going to be working on next. So that's the reason why I'm just kind of exhausted and so forth, and my commentary has suffered as a result. I'm just really tired because so many things have been happening so quickly lately. So there's your explanation for that. And that's also why I lost that PvP fight. No, it's because I'm shit at PvP. Well, I guess I'm a little bit better when I'm able to actually move around and stuff, but I don't do much PvP, obviously. Abyss sorcery discovered by an Oolacile sorcerer in the Break of Manus. Once again, create a cloud of dark fog. Although dark fog is in theory... Oh, am I doing the right thing? Okay, I was looking at the wrong one. But I'll read this one again anyways. Relatively close to humanity, it also happens to be a terrible poison for humans. Practice reflects man's cruelty against his own. So this one reflects the cruelty of man. Whereas this one, in contrast to standard soul sorceries, Abyss sorceries are weighty and inflict physical damage. As I've been saying before, perhaps a human soul is closer to matter in its humanity. So this is the thing that spells it out for us. That the human soul, the dark soul, although I guess you could say that the soul is a little bit different from humanity itself, since you can pick up a soul of a proud knight, for example, and also pick up a humanity off the same corpse, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, but apparently there is some sort of distinguishing feature between the two of them. I guess those kinds of souls are just like latent power that you're picking up, whereas humanity is their actual physical being or something. Who knows? Who knows? But it does spell it out to us that the humanity sort of base soul that humans carry around is closer to matter. That the dark soul itself is kind of what creates physicality in the first place. So that's how that works. There is one more spell that I need to get a hold of, though, that will spell out kind of everything exactly the way I want it to. Beware of caster. Huh. Yeah, there is one nearby. But I was hoping this one would say what I wanted it to say. Which is, you should come over here. Don't go down there. Oh, no, not just yet. Go down here, and you will find that, for some reason, that ground up there was an illusion. For some bizarre... No, don't start that. And if we go this way... Alvina! Our friend Alvina is over here. Meowing in an adorable kitty voice. Hello, Alvina. Meow. But she is trying to lead us somewhere. And she appears over here. And she kind of looks like she's in a spirit form or something. It's really strange. She kind of has the same exact effect that, like, say, if you kill a lot of enemies, then, for God's sakes, if you kill a lot of enemies, then they have that sort of effect on them as well. Killing these things is kind of annoying, because even if you hit them and it sends them backwards, they still tend to hit you anyways. But this is why getting humanity is going to be kind of trivial from this point on, because these guys are basically made up of humanity. We'll be talking about more about them in a split second. But Alvina was leading us to this illusory wall. And once we go in here, you'll notice that there's a shit ton of these little humanity dudes all over the place. Some of them are sort of medium-sized, and they drop one humanity. And some of them are itty-bitty sort of baby humanities. Now, whether or not they were actually... I don't think that they're the souls of children or anything, because, I mean, look how fucking big these other ones are. And humans don't get that big. I think it's just more that the latent sort of power of the Abyss, or maybe humanity itself, is congregating together and creating more of these things. And you notice that these things seem to be drawn to us. It's so hard to judge the distance. And they kind of just clip into you. It's easier to use like a spear on these guys. But this one seems to not want to get near us too closely. But you'll notice that these guys look pretty much exactly the same as the humanity and twin humanity things here. Like, the humanities that we can pick up don't have the little bitty eyes. But these dudes do. So what exactly these guys are is not really completely spelled out. I guess it probably should be. It's not completely spelled out, I guess. But they do seem to be linked with the Dark Soul, they do seem to be linked with humanity, they do seem to be linked with the Abyss. We don't see them anywhere else in the entire game. And we only see them, like, as they are here. Really? We only see them as they are here, down here in the Chasm of the Abyss. So we can assume that these things are being created by Manus, or as a result of Manus, or maybe, I guess, in theory, they could be the Oolacilian townfolk or something that came down here and were trapped or something of that nature. Then maybe these used to be the people that were actually trying to wake up Manus, and as a result, they suffered the consequences. Damn it, I didn't really show that off as much as I wanted to. But that was Sif that we saw over here. And the weird humanity enemies that were wandering around, you notice that they were ricocheting off of the wall that the shield that he was resting on was... that he was colliding against. Damn it, I should have showed that more. I was sitting here thinking about keeping one of them alive, but then I got talking about something else. This is the reason why you need to get plenty of rest, guys. Because otherwise you end up fucking up and doing stupid shit like that. But he does drop for us the Cleansing Great Shield. And by the way, take a look at this shield, which we've seen before. This is the shield that we can make from Sif's soul. And you'll notice that this one looks pretty much exactly the same, except it's more worn out. That's because they are, in fact, the same exact shield. Except this one has been worn out because it has seen so much use. Cleansing Great Shield. The steel Great Shield used by Artorias, who succumbed to the Abyss. Artorias, deeply scarred by the Abyss, used this to form a barrier to protect his compatriot Sif. Although this drained the shield, this magic defense remains high. So this one does have divine protection and so on, but this has lost it because Artorias used it to protect Sif. Now, like his sword, like if this was Dark Souls 2, it would say something stupid about how everyone that's always used it has been left-handed or something. That's not necessarily true. Like, whenever we encounter Artorias, he is using it in his right hand, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's... Like, I guess it's trying to imply that, oh, he's so strong that even when he's using his non-preferred hand, then he's still fucking powerful. I guess that's what they're going for or something in Dark Souls 2. But it could just be that the reason why that his... Like, he gave Sif his shield because he was scarred by the Abyss, as the description of this thing says. And that's how he lost the use of one of his arms. Or it could work in a reverse, that he decided to keep Sif here and hide him away using an illusory wall and this shield. And as a result of not having a shield, whenever he actually went on to try to fight Manus on his own, that's how he got his arm crippled in the first place. Because he didn't have a shield and he wasn't actually able to protect himself the way that he should be able to protect himself. So, whenever people say he was left-handed, that's what they're referring to. And whenever people say that he wasn't necessarily left-handed, that's also what they're referring to. These things are so fucking huge. But whenever I come back to farm these guys... and as you can see, they don't really float. They kind of just sit up in midair. But before we proceed on any further, we'll go over here real fast. And trigger the last little elevator in this area. Which I can't remember where exactly this is lead. It's been so long since I've used it that I can't quite remember. Oh, right. This leads out here. Right back in front of Marvelous Chester. By the way, since we're already here, let's go see if he has anything to say for us. I don't think he will, though. But you can see where exactly all this narrative is leading to.
Oh.
Yeah, he's just gonna say the same thing.
Well,
Yeah, he's just gonna say that from now on.
I'll be seeing.
I wonder if you don't get invaded by him, if you don't get invaded by him, if he says anything different after you have encountered Manus and so on. Something more about in the future, I guess. But I completely forgot about this little area, just because I never actually use it. Usually I just go down and do the whole Manus section in one shot, and then that's it. Wow, 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 like that noise. Alright, let's try to get down here and clear out a little bit of this area. There's not a huge amount of stuff down here, but there is enough that it does sort of complicate things. You want to be sure that you don't... You can kind of skirt the edges, but don't get too aggressive with it, or else you're going to fall off into your death. And trying to deal with these things is going to be a pain in the ass. And there are a lot of them. And more to the point of these things, the reason why these things can be so dangerous, like, they're not actually attacking you. They're just sort of walking up next to you, and you are just taking damage in the process. But the fact that they can actually physically sort of clip in through your body means that they can do just a shit ton, huge amount of damage to you in a very short amount of time. Now let's go ahead and finish this thing off while I'm thinking about it, because I don't want to have to deal with that. Nah, no bloated head for me. Let's go down here real fast and pluck a few things that we can get from this. But yeah, don't wander into them, and don't get over-aggressive and try to... Like, if there's a whole bunch of them, don't run in and think, I'm going to do a big wide arc swing and finish off a whole bunch of them in one move. Because you can easily get your ass killed very, very quickly from taking so much damage in such a short amount of time. And it is fitting that these things have a lot of health, since they are linked with physicality. Now, I think the reason why that these things actually exist in the first place is because the Dark Soul is linked with physicality in the first place. It does sort of insinuate, I don't know, that maybe the physical form was... This is sort of the impression that I've gotten anyways. This is an interpretation that I run with. That things like matter itself. Like, the first flame is linked with everything. Like, you know, the Dark Soul, the Light Soul, the Death Soul, the Life Soul. And, you know, in modern times, now we have sort of these aspects forming into their own creatures. You know, the gods, humans, and so on. But the first flame itself seems to just be, in general, just, you know, the nature of existence itself. That's what the first flame is. It's just existence, and that's all it is. Black flame, let's talk about that in a second. But it does something to insinuate that aspect of the first flame, the Dark Soul, what we consider to be the Dark Soul, is what is responsible for matter forming in the first place. Like, that's where we get everything. It doesn't matter if it's rocks, it doesn't matter if it's a person, a god, or a human, or a scary, spooky skeleton, or whatever. Then it's always going to be related to the Dark Soul, because that's where physical matter comes from. And then something like the Light Soul actually ends up giving it its spirit, or maybe it gives it its meaning, or so on. We'll speculate more about that later on. But the DLC does spell out exactly what the Dark Soul is by its very nature. Okay, Black Flame. And this is a pyromancy, which is kind of unusual. And I think this might be the only pyromancy... This is a better form of greater combustion, by the way. For anyone that's has the DLC, this is pretty much going to be welded to your toolbar if you're using any sort of one attunement slot and focusing on PvP, I guess. Black Flame, a pyromancy discovered from the Dark of the Abyss by a pyromancer who wandered into Oolacile. So this is their explanation. The Oolacilians did not make it, but it says a pyromancer discovered it, which I don't think that means that he wandered in and then found it and you found it on his corpse. Like, what would be the... Narratively, would be the point of that? I mean, it could be us. You know, we are the pyromancer that wanders in and discovers it. You know, why would you have another layer on top of it? You know, but whatever. So I do think that a pyromancer invented this. You know, that he discovered it, quote-unquote, whenever he wandered into Oolacile. Conjure a great black flame in one's palm. Black flames are weighty and inflict physical damage enough to smack away the mightiest of shields. So this is more of a physical... It's not a fire-based one. It's... I Again, it's more of these physicality-based spells. Now, the fact that you can actually conjure up a flame with something that is kind of using the Dark Soul at the same time is a little bit unusual. But again, fire is sort of linked with multiple things. Fire originally was linked with the life soul, and it became corrupt, and that's where we got modern pyromancy from. So what exactly this is supposed to be implying is not exactly clear, but it could be that maybe because the Oolacilian sorcerer was becoming corrupted with the Abyss, naturally whenever he produced his own flame, and like Laurentius told us, each pyromancer's flame is sort of linked with their own being in the first place, because, you know, it's linked with the nature of the life soul and so forth. Like, whenever you produce flame, it's actually coming from your own life. And I will also point out that just because human beings contain the Dark Soul and sort of are linked with that, does not mean that they don't also contain the other aspects of the other souls. Like, obviously, we contain life because we're alive. And obviously, we contain elements of the Death Soul because we can die. And obviously, we contain the elements of the Light Soul by that same logic. So it's not completely out of the stretch of the imagination that we can produce something that has elements of fire. Like, if we can use pyromancy in the first place, it's not that surprising, I guess. But I guess it could also mean that the links between both of them are breaking down because of the Abyss. Or it could mean something in relation to how... I don't know, I'm trying to think of some other explanation. I'm sure there is one. That maybe the, I don't know, my mind's kind of breaking apart right now. Oh, I fucking hate using these slow-ass greatswords. Like, instead of being able to... Like, how would he be able to make it in the first place? Unless, of course, say, because he became more attuned to the Dark Soul because of that link with the Abyss. That maybe that's why he was able to discover it in the first place. Or it could also mean that flame by its very nature. Like, there's the first flame. Like, why is it fire? Why does it have to be fire? That maybe by its very nature, fire shifts and contorts a lot. And isn't necessarily linked with any one thing. And maybe that's the reason why it's sort of more... Fire is usually more associated with the soul of life. Because there is that... Again, this is sort of Eastern storytelling. It's this sort of thematics that we're going for here. And, it's not really spelled out exactly what the rules of all this are, other than maybe everything is interconnected, and the way things work is not really mechanical in the way that Westerners may view it. And, it's more important to view it from the perspective of things are interconnected. And in this case, the fire, like, even though it's associated with the life soul, maybe the life soul is not really just life on its own. Maybe it has other connotations that we don't really think about too much. And it is actually linked with the Dark Soul and so on. Help me carving. And it seems like there's one more spell that I'm missing here. I think. Oh, don't do that. For God's sakes. Fucking Miyazaki. You and your fucking hard-on for those stupid, shitty platforming sections that don't even belong in a game that's not about platforming. Let's run down in there and try to do that again. For God's sakes, I hate that shit in this game. Tell you, it is always something. Like, I understand the need to be careful, but for God's sakes, if you want me to drop down to something, just put it to where it should be there. I mean, just don't focus so much on trying to screw the player over. But then again, it's Miyazaki, that's kind of his thing. That's his fetish in life. But if you want to get your ass killed very quickly, easiest thing to do if you want to get your ass killed quickly, is just roll down to this big pile of sinister, evil little... Actually, they're not evil, which is what I was trying to get to. Humanities, and they will chase you all the way down here, and that's the easiest way to get your ass killed. No, don't start that. Go on. Here they come. Ah, for God's sakes. And yeah, this is the thing that we already picked up. I'm just going to try to make a run for it down here. And it sounds like I am missing a spell, but I can't remember where exactly it is. And this is all the way at the bottom. Maybe it's down there. No, I think that's just a single humanity or something like that. Oh, jeez. You can see why humanity is both really easy to farm down here and why it is also super dangerous to do so. But we'll run down here real fast, and we won't actually go into the Manus boss fight just yet. We'll save that for part 34. And you'll be down here too. Yes, I see you. Dick face. Vulva face, or whatever you are. There has to be another one. One of these has something in regards to the nature of how it is drawn. I know good and well it's here, because, it says that maybe... No, wait, maybe it's humanity that I'm thinking of that actually has that description. Sorry for this, but this is going to bug the shit out of me. No? Huh. But I'll read this real fast. Humanity, this black sprite is called humanity, but little is known about its true nature. If the soul is the source of all life, then what distinguishes the humanity we hold within ourselves? So there is a distinguishing characteristic between a soul and humanity that people actually contain within them. I know good and well that there is another fucking spell. And I'm just going to tell you what, yeah, 20 humanities. I'm just going to fucking pause the game once we get down here, and then I'll just look the shit up, and we'll handle it that way. Okay, let's get down here real fast and clear this last little bit out, and then that'll be it. Sorry, the last few episodes have not been immensely entertaining, but again, I've just been completely exhausted, so I've been kind of out of it lately. But this is one of the few sources of white titanite slabs you can get, and this little vista overlooks the main boss area. Let's see if we can find more of Artorias' little spectral sperm goo that he's been leaving behind all over the place. I don't see it anywhere just yet. They're so small. Why? Why do you do that? You saw what I was attempting to do. I was swinging at this guy and tried to lock on, and the camera swings around and locks onto a thing that's completely behind me. Nowhere even near me, in comparison. Like, why does it do that? Oh, well. Anyways. And it seems like this is just something generic as a drop right here. Soul of a... Yeah, it's just soul here. God damn it. Why exactly a soul of a hero would be down here, who knows? Maybe this is another person that came down here trying to do the same thing that Artorias did, but he couldn't quite manage it. Maybe he's just a normal, ordinary person. But this is the path forward to Manus. And if you look closely, you can see him down here. Now, if you want to completely trivialize this fight, I guess, if you had enough arrows and patience, and I would hope that everyone would actually know this by now, but you can actually pull out a bow of your choosing, and the actual, like, you can't actually aim your camera all the way down this way, but if you blind fire, it takes a while, but you can actually see. This is a problem I have with blind firing. Now, if I was Peeve, I could actually do this seamlessly. It seems like adjusting the... Does actually adjusting the... Yeah, it does. It does sort of change up and down, doesn't it? But changing your orientation forward and backwards seems to do more. But eventually, if you try hard enough, you can start hitting him in the face. And you can slowly plink away at his health. And whatever you take away as far as his health goes will also carry over into the boss fight itself. Unfortunately, I'm not really good enough to do this, apparently. Because all I'm doing is just... You can do this, though. I've done it before. Not to make a liar out of myself. But anyways, you can also use the Great Bow on him if you want to. But that said, let me briefly skip over to look and see what exactly it is that I've missed. Okay, I figured out what it was. It's actually Pursuers that I have not gotten yet. That's the last of the dark-based sorceries that we can get. And I haven't gotten it yet because that's what you get from beating Manus and then trading in his soul. So, obviously, that's where I was getting that from. But I'll go ahead and read that off because it needs to be read off for the sake of this part. But the in-game description of it is, Sorcery of Manus, Father of the Abyss, grant a fleeting will to the dark of humanity, and volley the result. Grant a fleeting will, so you're actually giving willpower, like as though it has its own soul, to the dark of humanity. So humanity, it seems to differentiate humanity from darkness itself. So humanity may contain like its own soul, and that's where the distinction is, and the humanity that we actually pick up is the dark of the soul that we're actually plucking out of the soul itself. And volley the results, which is the attack. You're not really volleying it, it's just, it makes little balls above your head that automatically attack people whenever they get near it. It's one of those shitty-ass sorceries. It's a very good sorcery, it's just shitty-ass in the context of it requires no skill to use other than just casting it for the first time, and maybe walking them into it or something. Anyways. The will fills envy, or perhaps love, and despite the inevitably trite and tragic ending, the will sees no alternative and is driven madly towards its target. So that's how it works. Like, you create these little sorceries above your head, like the very closest comparison that I can make, which is not really going to help any, is going to be the soul masses. And these say, sorcery developed by Big Hat Logan, Fire Homing Soul Mass. Life originates in the soul. No wonder the soul mass draws towards it. This sorcery is a window into Seeker Logan's methods. Kind of the same thing with this one. The mysteries of souls, crystals, and the sorcery is deeply intertwined. Once again, I went over this whenever we were talking about Seath and the nature of stone and sorceries and so forth. But again, everything is sort of interlinked with how exactly it functions. As far as how basic sorceries work, life originates in the soul, no wonder soul mass draws towards it. So whenever you create these things, what's happening is that you're making these soul-based objects. Like, they don't have will, as far as I know, but they naturally, inexorably, are drawn towards life itself. But more specifically, towards the soul. And again, this is another problem of pyromancy is an extension of the soul of life, so there's that whole other extension. And of course, we also have a pyromancy that is also based on a dark-based magic. It's a whole thing, isn't it? But again, the Pursuer description says that the will that you give the dark of humanity, which is how this thing works, again, grant a fleeting will to the dark of humanity and volley the result. The will that you're giving it feels envy, or perhaps love. So these little bitty things, these little bitty balls that you're making, are like little tiny proto-humans, in a way. They're proto-humanity. And you're giving them willpower, and they, as a result, feel envy or perhaps love. So whenever we were actually fighting these humanity things up there, they are not actually trying to attack us necessarily, but they are drawn towards us. They want to be near us, either because they envy us, or perhaps because they love us. And this is kind of going hand in hand with the nature of how exactly the Dark Soul works in the first place. It says that the will sees no alternative, it is driven madly towards its target. I'll talk more about this whenever we actually get through fighting Manus in the next part. But the nature of how all this works is that, like, Manus is throwing a fit because he lost his pendant, correct? And, like, why would he throw such a fit about it other than maybe there's some sort of association with love that's going on? Like, he abducted Dusk of Oolacile for the same reason. And again, I'll go more into that once we get to it. But the dark itself, and the abyss, which is the dark run wild, is linked with humanity. It's linked with things like love and envy and hatred and just very powerful basic human emotions. All the things that we would consider to be human about us. Like, whenever we talk about not even in this game, just us. Like, in the real world, we say he has a lot of humanity. Or she is exhibiting a lot of humanity in her actions and things like that. We're talking about the very... Or even, like, whenever we're talking about, like, a villain sometimes, we will describe it in the same way. That, you know, they're letting their humanity get the best of them or something like that. This is what it's talking about. This intrinsic, basic nature of what it means to be a human being in the first place. Like, it's not intrinsically bad, it's not intrinsically good, it just exists. And by its very nature, the soul itself, humanity, is drawn madly towards its own destruction. And that's kind of the explanation for what exactly the Dark Soul is in this game. It's the idea that we have love, we have hate, we have all these aspects about us as human beings, which is strongest in humans in this universe. And it is because we have things like love and hate and so on that we are led inexorably to destroying ourselves. So whenever we are confronted at the end of the game, once we get to this point, you're going to need to think about this. Like the nature of how the Dark Soul works, how humanity works, and so on. And what the distinction between the Dark Soul and the Light Soul happens to be. Like, if the Dark Soul is all about love, hate, self-destruction, and the Light Soul is all about the facades of life, like illusions, glory, you know, great successes, like the magnificent structures that we are able to create and so on, like all the great accomplishments that we can actually create, then what is the decision that we have to make? Do we decide between extending this era of illusion and creating more and more of these great accomplishments that ultimately are going to amount to nothing, because they are going to decay, the first flame is going to fade, and we are just going to have to keep sacrificing ourselves. We have to keep sacrificing our humanity. We have to keep burning away our very souls to be able to keep creating more and more of these grand testaments to humanity itself? Or do we simply abandon that and dedicate ourselves completely to love and envy and hate and all the things that we consider to be the worst and best elements of our very character, but lose all of the accomplishments in history that we have generated as a result? Like, what is the distinction between those two things? What would you decide? If given the choice between either entering a new era of quote-unquote prosperity that ultimately is going to lead to nothing, would you decide between that or your own self-destruction as a result of seeking your own love and hatred and so on, which ultimately leads to killing yourself and everyone around you? To me, this is the strength of Dark Souls as a game. Because as I've talked about before, especially, I talked about this in my stream yesterday, or the day before that, and even in Nick's stream yesterday, that the strength of these games, the strength of Dark Souls specifically, is going to be its NPCs. It's going to be the little bitty side stories, like Sigmar and, you know, Kieran, just all the people that we've been meeting. All of their little backstories all have the same exact theme. This decision between accomplishment, glory, and so on, and destroying yourself because of love, because of envy, because of all the failings of being a person in the first place. And since the life soul, like, we can make dark-based magic from that. We can, like, sorceries, we can make dark-based magic from that as well. And we can make, make things die with magic and so on. Like, all the various aspects of all the souls are all interrelated with one another. So, even in that context, even though we are destroying ourselves and so on, we still have all these aspects, like even the gods have that aspect within them. Like even Kieran or Artorias can end up inevitably destroying themselves, even though they are gods, because of the humanity, the dark that they have within them. Because we all hold, inevitably, despite whatever differences we may have, the same basic elements of creation itself within us, which is the first flame. And even though we can divide it into these 4 different aspects of itself, then it's still inevitably going to be the same exact thing. So, Manus is going to encapsulate sort of the finalized idea of all of that. Of, like, the end of the game, you know, is the conclusion of that theme. But Manus is the conclusion of the DLCs, the apostrophe S, theme of the Dark Soul itself being a soul that is all about love, hate, envy, and so on. And whenever you think about humanity, what exactly is humanity? That's what it is. It's the dark, and the dark is all the glories and negative aspects of being a sentient being with will that has will instilled within it that causes it to inevitably destroy itself. That's what it is, and that's what Manus is. So we're going to have to question that whenever we get to him. And we have to question why exactly is he doing what he's doing? What is the basic raw emotion that's driving him? And what exactly happened to him that makes him feel that way in the first place? And as a result, what is it about the toothy serpent that was trying to manipulate the Oolacilians? What is his motive in all this as well? And all this is going to wrap up in probably the next 2 or 3 episodes as we hit the very final parts in this series. And then we'll be done. But that's the things that I want you guys to think about. And that's the things that I appreciate about this game, because it is very much so tied to raw classical literature, which is always about things like this. That's what I love about this game. And that's the reason why I kind of felt disappointed with a few of the other games, because they don't really hit as close to home as far as really selling the narrative of the thing that Miyazaki was going for, all at the same time with every bit of extraneous dialogue and item descriptions and everything in the whole game. Really works out really good. So thank you guys for coming by. I'll see you guys in part 34. And we might just get done by part 35. I sincerely doubt that, actually. I'm lying, we won't. So, see you guys next time. Bye!